name's Dan Conway. There's a book out by Dan Conway about how he became a crypto millionaire. That's a different Dan Conway. So if you read that, be happy for someone else. I was among the first probably 15 Bitcoin miners, and I did pay for 7 kids to go through college and wife through graduate school and lots of things with Bitcoin, but I sold it about $30. So I am not able to write a book like the other Dan Conway, who was apparently better at timing than I was. There's 2 forms of regret in the world, and mine regret is selling too soon. But there are worse forms of regret. So I think I taught the first blockchain courses at the University of South Florida five and a half years ago now, and I've been involved in a number of startups. And I'm involved currently in, I think, the biggest Hyperledger application. I'm involved in a kind of a high-end DoD software supply chain distributed ledger technology application. I'm on the U.S. standards body for blockchain DLT. So I kind of run the blockchain interoperability standards. We run our center at the University of Arkansas runs with Walmart. We run China's poultry and pork blockchains. I'm on India's national committee for blockchain, so we're kind of building out the same thing. So our school's focus is probably on supply chain, although our head of our law school has written a blockchain legal book, and she has a conference each year. We have our dean of the business school has written a blockchain supply chain book. We have faculty that have been very active in research in this and so on. So we've got a blockchain center. We have undergrad programs that cover fundamentals and then an introduction to programming, Solidity, and then we have an advanced Hyperledger type of course at the undergrad, at the Masters of Analytics level. And then we also have executive blockchain courses, executive ed types of courses in blockchain. So we have quite a few courses here in blockchain. We have cryptocurrency courses. I think Catherine was going to talk to one of you on Friday or something. And she teaches a crypto, and will probably teach a DeFi course as our U.S. body gets more stabilized in some of these protocols and gets the standards to bear together better, in particular the interoperability standards. And we'll probably start building curriculum in the DeFi space as well. University of South Florida is building DeFi out. Wyoming is building a food and beef chain, all kinds of things like that, as well as governance. Notre Dame is in the supply chains or the identity and security space and blockchain. So we're trying to put together a consortium at the research level of all these schools as well. Well, let's see, other things that are going on. So we have 20 people per class. We keep our class sizes small. And so we do a lot of hands-on. We have a hackathon, which hopefully you'll advertise on your website. Jed McCall's helping with that. He's a local boy. He's done pretty well. If you have some Stellar or Ripple, he's done pretty well in those spaces. We had our conference. We have an annual conference, and we did have the Tap Scotts come for that, as well as the guy who created smart contracts. I can't think of his name right now, but he participated in that as well, Nick. And then our hackathon, which Catherine will run here, will have funding. I think it may be funded by Corda, and we'll have a day of workshops, build an application with Corda, with Cardano, I believe we're going to do, with Stellar. We'll probably still have Nick Sabo, thank you. Good grief. We'll probably have a workshop on some version of Hyperledger. We're involved in the Linux Foundation's identity, blockchain identity, sovereign identity sorts of efforts as well. Let's see. Otherwise, I think our specialty is probably supply chain, but also our center is funded by 11 or 12 different groups. Walmart being sort of the dominant player in the blockchain space. All of their Canadian trucking is on blockchain now. It's resolved all the conflicts and problems that they've had. We have Ernst & Young is very active, and they have a nice blockchain conference as well. So we're involved quite a bit with Ernst & Young. That's enterprise blockchain sorts of stuff. So I think our focus is both on enterprise blockchains, privacy within Ethereum, either a secret network or Ernst & Young has its own privacy mechanism, Monero type of mechanism within Ethereum. But that's probably what we're best at. And the Hall of Fame for supply chain here is here in town. We're the #1 supply chain school, so it makes sense that we would be kind of focused on that space. I don't know actually who's in the healthcare blockchain space. I saw Harvard and Ben Israel were playing in that space, and MIT had some open source blockchain records management systems and so on. So I think you look up upper East Coast for some of that stuff. But anyway, I'll stop speaking right now. We're involved in a lot of great things, both internationally and through Walmart, through supply chain, through Tyson Foods, JB Hunt, IBM, Microsoft, McKesson, the usual suspects that fund these types of things. So we're privately funded. We did get $500,000 from the governor of Arkansas. Arkansas is a great place to get things done, like Wyoming, because there's one university, there's no resource battles. If I want to go see the governor, I'll send him an email and I'll go see him the next day. It's a lot easier than it was, for example, I've been at Florida and Northwestern and Indiana and Notre Dame, Iowa and Virginia Tech. It's just hard to get things done in certain states, the way the government and universities interact with each other. But what Wyoming's able to get done is because of the structure of the governance, and we have a pretty good setup here in Arkansas as well. So happy to take any questions, any particulars.
How was
Go ahead, please.
IBM breaking out?
Yeah, I can't. Ashton, you're breaking up a lot and frozen. If anybody heard, could repeat.
Yeah, I didn't really hear it. Maybe Ashton, you could type it, ask your question through chat.
Okay, I'll get on chat here quick.
In the meantime, just curious, how many Bitcoin were you mining in those early stages?
I was on faculty at Northwestern in industrial engineering, and I was at the University of Iowa running their MBA analytics program. So I had access, and then I had former students, because I'm old now, former students who are on faculty at Iowa State. And so I had somebody there kind of run agents for me in the evenings on the labs. So I had probably 4 university labs running. I'd make maybe 600 Bitcoin a night. One time I sold 30,000 of them at about $30. And that was before you had to pay taxes on these things. But yeah, if I had held on, some of my friends have a lot of resources, as you might guess. They're strong libertarians. This was created by people who are totally anti-Federal Reserve, are mad at Woodrow Wilson for creating the Federal Reserve. It's a different culture. I was introduced, I was working in enterprise architecture at John Deere, and I was introduced to a guy who I'd known as a kid. We used to build, we used to rip the chips out of microwaves and build computers out of them back in the 70s, when chips were kind of expensive. You could get a nice Apple chip right out of a microwave in a junkyard for free, or you could pay $5,000 for one. So we used to build computers back in the mid 70s. This guy came to my little cubicle. He says, "Dan, we have to build Bitcoin over ham radio before the government shuts down the internet and takes all the Bitcoin." I had no idea what the guy was talking about, but it sounded like a good idea. So, so we did it. We built Bitcoin protocol over ham radio. I said, "Isn't this illegal to do encryption on citizen band radio?" He said, "Yeah, it's probably illegal." I said, "Okay, how much are these things worth?" He said, "Nothing. There's no value to them." We were actually building wallets on John Deere combines and tractors to connect to the CAN bus, to wallets, to seeders and other machines. So there's probably old Deere equipment out there that has a lot of Bitcoin on it. because again, it wasn't worth anything. It was just, we were just playing around with this stuff. But anyway, I said to this guy, I said, you know, this doesn't make any sense, don't you? Printing your own money. And he says, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's illegal. And yeah, I know all those things, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we did it. But anyway, yeah, so I know people that have many Bitcoin. Most of them diversified out of Bitcoin maybe 5 years ago. A lot of them are on the Monero core team. They're all very privacy oriented. They all drive the same vehicles they ever did. They live in the same houses, same old Ford trucks that they always drove, still driving them. But they all have kind of boats somewhere in Florida with enough diesel on them to get them to New Zealand if they need to. But yeah, it's been a really wild ride. I mean, I've been in academics in 8 different universities for 30 years, and I certainly made more money in virtual currency than I have combined all the actual work I've done in the world. It's been an interesting ride. But it's fun to, you know, back when Bitcoin hit 13 cents, I know I was printing enough every night to buy a Subway sandwich. And I just remember telling my children, I said, hey, I printed money last night. They're all afraid I'm going to go to jail. You can't print money. It's illegal.
I think that beats the 10,000 Bitcoin for a pizza story. Is a Subway sandwich every night.
Yeah. I think my wife's graduate school, which I paid with Bitcoin, is probably today's value over $1 billion. But again, the thing could have dropped to zero. I mean, I was certainly involved in I own over 1 billion Dignity coin that are worth zero. I mean, you just never know in this space.
Yeah.
But I got out, and what it did, it enabled me as a professor. I don't make a lot of money. But what it did is enabled me to sort of have the second income. So I could coach basketball, and it's fun to coach basketball in Bloomington, Indiana. But I could coach track and soccer and softball and baseball and cross country. I could coach all those things because I didn't have to really work a second job to pay for all the kids. So Bitcoin and all the crypto has been real helpful as subsidizing a poor university professor income.
So we have our second question from Ashton. So the question is in the chat, but it's essentially if you can go more into your relationship with the enterprises, and do you work on proof of concepts and deliver proof of concepts, or is it more research reports?
I don't have a research requirement for myself. I tend to put out 2 a year just in case I do want to go to another university. So I keep my resume up with it, but I don't have any research requirements. So the work I do is all what you might call consulting. So part of our blockchain center is that we provide consulting services to these companies, and we write up cases and so on. They're on our website. You can look at some of them. So ANSA is a big Italian news agency, in Europe. And so we put together an Ethereum application. So all of their writing gets put onto a blockchain and digitally signed, and thus it's combating the fake news world. I'm the largest Hyperledger application that we're running right now. Is pretty amazing. It costs about $40,000 to build production. We can run about 11 billion transactions now at a cloud cost we're in 27 nodes, 23 countries, 5 cloud providers. 2 of them Kubernetes, the other 3 raw Docker sort of stuff with Hyperledger and the containers. And we can run these things at $2,000 a month, we've got 110,000 companies right now that use this thing. So we have a lot of things that are live production with different blockchains. The enterprise stuff is, a lot of that's Walmart right now. So Walmart's very active in the blockchain space. If you look at the top 12 companies by market cap in the United States, 10 of them really tried to kill blockchain. McKesson ignored them, and we work with McKesson as one of our sponsors. And Walmart sort of tried to adopt it. The way Constantine adopted Christianity, point it in the direction that you want to leverage it for, but adopt it nonetheless. just about everybody else tried to kill it, from Google to Facebook, Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan. All these companies actually tried to kill. And it's really remarkable that it has survived despite this concerted effort by central banks, by large banks, by the massive data collection infrastructure, that it has survived. Oh, my email, you could data science Dan at Gmail is probably the best email. So we do enterprise stuff. We're very active with Ernst & Young. They said they would hire any of our blockchain people. So that's, IBM, I talked with them this week because the CoinDesk had the article that IBM looked like it was shelling out. And I talked to the guy who ran their big data group about that. And what he said IBM was doing is rolling it into the cloud. Everything in IBM will be cloud Red Hat. So they're just institutionalizing it as another cloud offering, like Amazon has blockchain and cloud and Azure and things like that. A lot of the talent at IBM left to start their own DeFi companies. So that's the problem that they're having. But Ernst & Young is aggressively hiring. New York office is where they base their stuff out of. But we do a lot of things with Ernst & Young. Microsoft is on, and Ernst & Young and Microsoft are doing what's their PlayStation is their gaming device, and that's all been put on Ethereum as well. So that's all tokenized mechanism. So I'm sort of an analytics person, which is why I love University of Cincinnati. But I'm analytics and artificial intelligence. I work for Space Force. I work for Dallas Mavericks. I've done poverty things with the Vatican. I mean, I have a very diverse sort of analytics background. I just happen to stumble into this blockchain, but my sweet spot's probably laying AI on top of blockchains. And that's where, even this effort we have in DLT for software supply chain is kind of interesting. So we've got the number 3 at Google and the founder of NVIDIA. Then we've got these technical people who are stunning, people who wrote BitTorrent and HTTP and X Windows, fellow Bell Labs sort of people. So the elite people on both sides, and I have to tie it together. But the idea is distributed ledgers give us the immutability. Blockchain consensus is not what we want. We don't really want consensus, because what consensus is throwing away information for the greater good. And what we want in our DLT solution is not to throw away information, because in the security world, that information is really what you're going for. You want to know why I compile something and DoD does and Langley does and Fort Meade does, why they compile things and get the exact same result, but IBM compiles with the same compiler and the same dependencies and everything, but they get a different executable code. So what we're trying to build up is a big DLT solution for software supply chain, where artificial intelligence is really going to replace what we think of as consensus. So instead of having rules, it's a normal digital maturity transformation, digital transformation thing where you go from hard and fast rules to replacing it with a little smarter AI. So those are some of the things that we're working on that we can talk about anyway. We are, again, privately funded by a lot of these things. So some of the work that we do, the people who fund us will get access to it from 1 to 3 months. And then after that, we publish it on our website. So that's kind of our business model. Let's see, any other questions?
I think that's it for now. Yeah, if you can drop your email in the chat,
Yeah, sure.
that would be great. And okay, I have so another question actually. So is there a student-run blockchain club at the university, or is it all kind of run at the faculty level?
We had a student club last year. They did not resubmit their paperwork. So apparently because of COVID, and we're actually meeting face to face in class, but there aren't any activities really on campus. So it's a really bizarre, very sad sort of situation, actually, having enjoyed college a lot myself and, track and all the other things that I loved in college. it's kind of a sad situation. But yeah, so the club did not renew. I think one of you is going to talk with Catherine on Friday, and she'd have more detail about that. We do have a regional club, a professional club, which again, Walmart now has over 100 data science jobs open. So, I mean, they've got lots of resources. We were paying people $10,000 and giving them a free bike to move to the area if they had math skills or data science types of skills. So there's a lot of opportunity around here. Things are actually pretty good. It's going to be kind of cold this week, which is not so good, having moved up from Tampa 2 years ago.
Yeah. So we'll try to help out with that, and also with all the other stuff. I think you mentioned a lot of great initiatives and resources between the lab, between the events and the hackathon, and hopefully the student club as well. I mean, one of the things that Ben really prides itself on is being mostly student run, especially from the earlier days when a lot of professors and a lot of faculty weren't on board with blockchain.
Yeah, it took me 2 years to teach a blockchain class. Again, I think I taught the first one in 2014 or 2015. 2015 or 2016. It's hard to explain even to faculty or deans what this thing's about. I mean, you really, the approach that I've had most success with, and again, the young people understand it, right? The faculty have to unlearn so much to get to this point, but it's an inter-organizational database. So as we go through people, process, and technology and digital transformation, we think of that as an organizational thing. But in the inter-organizational space, this is the database, the information. Smart contracts are the process layer. And then we're still figuring out the governance thing. We've had some experiments that have had some types of luck to it. But it's a bizarre thing because in the inter-organizational space, there's no one to pay you, right? So you can't create a product if there's not somebody with resources to compensate you. So it's really quite remarkable. The whole ecosystem, this digital ecosystem has emerged, providing solutions and competing on transparency without sort of somebody funding it directly. But it offers enough value that people are making a living at it, and some doing pretty well.